Hi everybody, thank you so much for coming tonight, despite the weather and the heat and whatever else. I'm so glad that you guys made it. And yeah, this is the first time we're doing this at Spacious HQ. So I wanted to thank Spacious people. Thank you. No, it's a wonderful space. I mean, I was here once just to check out the space, and I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I want to shoot here. I really like this a lot.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. It's got a lot of good stuff, a
Yeah,
little
it does.
decor to the whole entire, you know, the mood and everything else. But anyway, we're going to get started. And as you know, our guest tonight is John DeMatter from DeMatter Productions. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Always a pleasure.
Actually, this is his second time. The last time we had an event at WeWork. I believe it was, gosh, somewhere in 50s, but you know, they're back in November 2017, and we had a lot of fun.
We did.
Yeah, that's why. Well, I thought I'll call you back.
Yeah, you didn't get tired of me, so I'm pretty psyched about that. Thank you.
Fantastic. And to be honest, you're the first person that I call back for the second time around.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, now I feel special. Thank you.
Well, you should.
And I do. So it all works.
But anyway, well, in the beginning, I actually wanted to chat with you a little bit before we get into a bit of a, you know, sort of an exercise and a master class type of thing. It's going to be a lot of fun, by the way. I wanted to make sure that this is not going to be boring. You don't have to sit back and just listen to what we have to say.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, I wanted to ask you about your journey a bit, because what's interesting about this topic, right? This is about making your timeline or status update to be more alive, and that will allow you to connect with your audience better. So basically reviving your timeline in a clever way, consistently. That last part is really important. And I know that that's the part that you're really, really passionate about, but you're not a social media strategist. You are a, how would you describe yourself? Lifestyle portrait?
I would consider myself a branded lifestyle portrait photographer.
That's right.
And a content creation expert.
Right, so you have a completely different view.
Yes.
In terms of the way that you would look at this thing called the content marketing. It's a ginormous topic. If you ask what content marketing is to, say, 5 different people, you'll get 5 different answers, I think.
And
and I'm interested in hearing about, you know, your take on that, obviously.
Well, my take on the whole content creation thing was born out of the fact that I was pissed off at my clients for using stock photos after I just shot them for 4 hours and gave them over 120 photos. So what ended up happening was I had a conversation with another client of mine, and he was talking to me about how most people are satisfied with 2 to 3 photos, and that, one second, hold on. Most people are satisfied with 2 to 3 photos, and that's all they really wanted. But
out of 120,
yeah,
that you
or
liked,
200 or whatever.
You selected. Select. You know, like
Yes.
as a professional, you selected them for them.
Yes,
and they didn't use.
They did not use them.
Muslim.
No. They
Right.
used, one person in particular was using stock photos, and that's when I realized that.
You were livid.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of irritated. Yeah, no, because
I would be if I were a photographer. Yeah.
Well, the reality is that what we're trying to do here is create a brand and present these people authentically, and they're using stuff where people are fake smiling and it looks like we're in some sterile office, and it has, that drives me nuts.
I do that sometimes because I don't know what to do with myself.
Right,
but anyway, that's a whole other story.
Right
yeah, we're not going to get into that.
No, let's not do that right now.
That's
but
fine.
I will say that what I ended up, the conclusion that I came to was that what I needed to do was not just hand people a bunch of photos, give them the strategy in order to, you know, leverage these things on a high level. We had to get nitty-gritty. We had to get a little deeper. So what I ended up doing is tapping into the way that I create content, because I post every single day, I repurpose old stuff, and I write 3 blogs a week. So I do a lot of stuff. So what I did is I thought about how it is that I create all of this stuff and kind of came up with a solution of sorts that they can now leverage and have a better understanding of what it is that they're going to do with these photos once I hand them this pile of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess the turning point was that you wanted to make sure that more people understand it. It doesn't really have to be that complicated to generate consistent visual content.
Yeah.
Well, you know, for the rest of us, we tend to think that that's a huge task. And sometimes we
it is
go
a huge task.
blank on that.
It is.
I don't know about you guys, but I do sometimes. I go, that's it, like a for good.
Oh, I do that too, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So.
Oh, I do that too. It's not that it's not a lot of work, but there's a difference between having a lot of work and having a lot of work where you're focused and you're actually accomplishing something.
Right.
And you're actually putting out there the types of content that will resonate with your audience. And you're giving them a sense of who you are,
right.
what you do, who you serve, and why you do what you do.
Sure.
Rather than sit there with all these photos and you're just getting what I refer to as caption anxiety. You freak out, you have no idea what's going on,
right.
and then the next thing you know, you find 50 other things to do with your day and you don't do it.
Yeah.
And then ultimately what ends up happening is that you don't get your message across. And what happens with that is now all of the work that you've put into this is just sitting on your computer waving at you every morning and you're not doing anything with it. And for me, I don't just love shooting these photos. You know, I don't just love the process of creating this art, monetizing my art in a certain way that benefits other people. It doesn't benefit them if they're not using the pictures. So
right.
for me, it was something where I felt the need to want to do more so they can get it going.
Right. I think another sort of a challenge is that it's not that, well, sometimes I can speak for myself. You know, I get stuck on sort of one-dimensional way of looking at this task.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe it's not the workload that overwhelms me, but it's more so that how many different angles or the different sort of a concept that we can approach. And since we're not a pro, a lot of times, you know, that becomes sort of like that holds me back a bit time to time, and that's a challenge. And also, I don't know how many of you guys actually sell tangible products, but I'm from the service field, and the services a lot of times is intangible. But we all wanted to convey what we can do with the expertise that we have. But it's so hard to translate that into something visual. And because of it, we ended up using some kind of, you know, like conceptual stock photos where, you know, a bunch of guys in suits shaking hands, or, well, I don't use them. I do not use them anymore. I don't think I've ever used them anymore, but because every time I look at them, I go, oh, no, that's not happening. But I don't know what else to do.
Well, fortunately, we got a whole thing to talk about, Ben, because actually the one thing that you brought up before about the one-dimensional angle towards the certain themes within your business that you want to share, I'll talk about later. Because that essentially is a huge, huge piece to the whole puzzle.
Right.
It's about creating that unique insight, and that, you know, you'll be able to see things from multiple perspectives and be able to create unique content around the same themes all the time. And it becomes a self-sustaining cycle where it's recurring, and it's what I refer to as a continuous flow of content.
Right.
And then you won't have that issue anymore. And then we'll
That
work
would be a
on,
good place to be.
well, then we'll also work on that whole stock photo snafu thing we got going on right now. But that one step at a time.
Right, yeah,
Cross
no,
that
it's,
bridge when we get to it.
right, yeah, no,
yes.
it's tough. Sometimes, like, you know, I feel like, oh, well, you know, I don't know what else I got on my computer. You know, I just need to post something, but I don't want to just post text. And what else can I do? And at that moment, it's already quite overwhelming, right? It's like, oh,
You got a phone in your pocket that has a camera, right?
that's why we're here tonight.
Yeah, well, that's
Basically.
part of it for sure.
Yeah,
That's definitely part of it for sure.
yeah, that's not just the one go-to solution, but that can be leveraged, I think.
No, and that's another important thing to talk about is that when you're talking about curating, presenting a well-curated social media presence, it's not just pretty photos of you. It's not just me looking like a badass, dressed up, all decked out, looking great, doing that. That's part of it. That's important.
Sure.
It's part of your brand. But what's also important is to capture moments as they happen throughout your life. And sometimes you're not going to have me or him standing around shooting you 24/7. So what you have to do is be
Wouldn't that be
resourceful
nice?
and tap into your creative muscles and actually figure out a way to visually punctuate those stories that you want to share.
Yeah.
And present it in a way that has a certain aesthetic to it that will attract people to actually want to read the caption that you spent so much time crafting in the first place. So it's really about kind of figuring out what's the high level stuff, like something like this photo or something that where you take your phone out and you snap that picture immediately. Mm-hmm. It's about creating that presence through different types of images.
Right. Well, sometimes we don't know where to meet in the middle. So the one side was exactly what you talked about, you know, all professional, all game face, you know, we're killing it kind of look. Then sometimes you accidentally post something that's way too silly. That's the other side of the
There's no such
spectrum.
thing like for me. That actually is right up my wheelhouse. But that's a good point.
If that's
though.
your thing,
If that's
yeah.
your brand.
Yeah,
If, that
if
is
that's
who
your
you
thing,
are,
that's fine.
Yes.
But if the gap is too drastic, and that could be kind of weird too. And
Yes.
also, before I say that, I wanted to ask you about your pet peeves.
I have a laundry list of them. Which
Right.
ones would you like to
One
start
of them.
with?
Okay, so here's the thing though. Like I have this huge resistance, and then I don't do them because of it, and I'm not thinking about doing any of it anytime soon. Is
Okay.
this me riding a horse, or me having a dinner with my friends, me taking photos with
Riding
Kim
a horse?
Kardashian West. I haven't done that for like ages, but I'm just saying that. But like me doing something, quite frankly, I don't even know if I care. That's not what I want to do.
And that's
And that was one of your pet peeves. Remember, we did talk about that a little bit.
I did?
Me doing this, me doing that, and me with so and so. I mean, there are too many of those things. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, who cares?
well,
Who cares?
yeah. What I think one of the main pet peeves that I have in that vein is
That line, yeah.
especially when, well, for one, when this thing goes into sleep mode, that probably.
I
is
had
one of
that
my pet
problem
peeves.
at another location, by the way. Just don't feel bad about that. Like
Okay,
at
good.
eBay, like I had to do it like every second. But anyway, go ahead.
One of the things that I hate seeing from a lot of the thought leader type folks and entrepreneurs that I work with is that they post photos of themselves where they present themselves in situations that aren't unique or special or authentic to who they are. They're putting stuff out there, presenting themselves as what they think their audience wants to see. And
With a Rambo that somebody else owns, and
yeah, I can't stand that shit. Oh my God, I hate that. And it's because
some people do.
A lot of people do, and
Yeah.
it's something that people hide behind. This fake exterior of, let me present myself as someone who I think will attract more clients, rather than tapping into what's already inherently within yourself, which is interesting enough to begin with. And they just post these really cheesy photos that makes me want to throw up.
Sometimes you need help from someone else in that department, I feel like. You know, maybe I could be stuck. And maybe all I need is, you know, a friend of mine or some, you know, peers or somebody else telling me that they're
intervention, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of it.
Photo intervention.
Yeah, a little bit of it.
Stop
Okay,
the
you know,
crap,
it's
yeah.
okay to do, and you kind of take a step back and you go, well, you know what, you're right. I didn't think of it. You know, but that's when you come in.
Presumably, yes. That is where I come in.
Is that a good segue?
Yeah, that was very smooth. I like that.
Thank you.
Now, as I've been developing this idea generation piece with my clients, I've come across a couple of very specific reasons why people have such difficulty with creating consistent content. And we'll start with the first one that I've noticed. How many people have said this to themselves? Yeah, I know you have. I don't know what to post on days that I haven't done any client work, and I've heard that on more than one occasion. And the thing that I like to impress upon people is the fact that it's actually ironic, because on the days that you don't have any client work is exactly the time that you should be taking to create these ideas for your content, because it's when you're not busy and you're allowing yourself that creative space to actually sit down and brainstorm some ideas where you're able to really hash things out and have a little experimentation and playtime with it. But a lot of people feel this need to have to do stuff while they're working. But the reality is that when you actually take the time when you're slow from working with your clients and you write this content out, you can actually prepare stuff in advance so that when you do get busy, guess what? You got stuff rolling on and on and on and on. Just to give you an indication, I'm about 2.5 months ahead on all of my stuff. And that's because that affords me the opportunity to work on other aspects of my business and to develop other services that I can include in what I already do. But that was learned the hard way, because I did that all the time. And then another thing that I used to do was that. Sometimes I stress all day about what to post, and then I just throw something up because I want to just throw something up. Now, when I hear clients talk to me about that, what I normally tell them is, you are better off not posting a damn thing. Because if you post stuff that is not congruent with who you are, with stuff that's not congruent with your brand, that doesn't resonate with your audience and get them interested in whatever service or product that you're presenting, you're sending mixed messages with this. And what ends up happening is it starts to turn people off. They're like, what the hell is this stuff? So it's very important to take the time before you start posting on social media to actually figure out who you are, who you serve, and why you do what you do. And then that way, you're building that foundation, you're building that structure from which to work, where you can cherry pick certain themes of this very important piece of your personal brand, or your business's brand, as the case may be with some of you in the room. But don't just post stuff just to post stuff. It's a detriment to your business. And then this one kills me, but I hear this one all the time. And usually when someone approaches me with, but I'm boring, I work in it, I'm on a computer and blah, 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 it doesn't matter. What happens is, this is more of an indication of someone that's not comfortable with owning who they are, owning their business, owning their brand, owning all of the things that represent the solutions that they provide to their clients. And what this shows me is that it's just a way for you to kind of back off and avoid the process of creating content on a consistent basis. But what really, if you think about it, you're a living, breathing human being, right? That's stuff to write about. That's not boring. You're an entrepreneur, or you're a part of a structure of a business where you are tasked with putting out content that resonates with your audience or your customers. That's not boring. You have a family, if this is appropriate for your brand. If you have a family, you have social life, you have connections, you have hobbies. None of that is boring. The key to leveraging all of this stuff, specifically with personal brands, is that you want to be able to create these stories from your life, from your business, life as an entrepreneur, life as an expert in whatever it is that you are selling, whatever services and pain points you solve. And really bring these stories together and tie it together so that it resonates with your audience through a lesson that you're teaching them through the story that you're sharing. So this is a bunch of crap, as far as I'm concerned.
But I just say that a lot of times, and I've been there many times, I think a lot of times for service business people, we kind of, it's hard for us to look beyond what. You know, we know what we do, right?
Right.
If someone's an accountant, in the Ramona's case, for example, right? Well, she is a CPA, she's got more certification than I can even, I sort of name. But that's just what. And a lot of times people wanted to see how you deliver, but you know, it's a hard.
How is
it's hard to
important?
rewire to that thinking, I think.
Well, it's not just the how, it's also the why. And not only that, but when you are an accountant, for example, it's not just about what you do, because at the end of the day, there's 9 million of you in the world. There's 15 million photographers. Right, right. But yeah, but the point behind that is that what you're trying to do is not be in a transactional type of relationship. So I'm an accountant, I do this is what I have, pay me money, I do services, we're done. No. When you are creating a very sustainable personal brand and with a growth mindset looking to scale, what you need to do is develop relationships. And that's what this stuff is for. Your content, beyond the aesthetics, beyond the beautiful photography, is creating a rapport and a relationship with those who are looking to you to solve their particular pain. That's the point. So what you want to do is create content around that not only shows your expertise. Yes, that's important. I have all kinds of photos up for myself with my photography, but more importantly, I have the other stuff, the stuff that shows them that I'm an actual human being, that I present my personality, because that is the connection that you create when you put content out there where you're revealing yourself. It's a little bit vulnerable and it's a little bit weird, and I'll be honest with you, when I first started as a professional photographer, it was 4 years ago. As a matter of fact, I think I quit my job either what's today, the 14th? Yeah. I think it was either yesterday or the day before I quit, so it's 4 years like this week that I quit my job, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, but when I first started, it was as a photographer, it was portfolio-driven images, placing myself squarely as a transactional business. And it was headshots against a black fabric background or gray, so it's like, it's pretty and it's great and the stuff is wonderful, but when you're just scrolling through stuff, it gets kind of boring just seeing heads smiling or looking snarky or whatever. It's not exactly like, ooh, you know? Well, people weren't really scrolling back then. So they weren't scrolling. But the thing about that, as we wait for this to turn back on. Yeah. So, but the thing that I learned is that what was missing was the fact that I put no kind of story whatsoever in the caption. At first it was just photos. No one cares. It's not, there's no substance to it beyond the aesthetics. Now granted, photography is important because it is very aesthetic driven, but there is a value proposition that comes along with that, and that's something I want to impress upon all of you. It's important that you, as the faces of your brand, if you are the face of your brand, present yourself in a way where you're comfortable and confident in front of the camera. But, you know, we need to add a little bit of juicy goodness to it. There needs to be some substance there. There needs to be some kind of revelation of your personality, showing off who you are and what drives you. And then these photos then become not the star, but the visual punctuation of that story that you're writing. And that's the stuff that people care about, because now when you are looking at this feed, all of a sudden it's like, I care about this person beyond what they can do, and I really want to follow them, and that's how you develop a community around yourself. So that's that. Now, how do you generate these ideas that will convert into that content? Well, over the past year and a half or so, I've been thinking about this specifically for myself, and now this translates to my clients. And the way that I do that, I have 4 specific different things that, that contribute to being able to deliver consistent content that will actually, resonate and move people to want to actually follow you and call you when they need you. And the first step is belief and commitment. Now, the belief part is that the first step is believing in the fact that what you have to offer is important and you solve people's problems. Because if you don't believe and own who you are, and you don't own, what's important to you and what you are solving in terms of the pain points for your clients, this is not going to work. And that's, a lot of people get caught up on all of the bells and whistles and the stuff after this, the photos, and I was hearing everyone talking about, I want to make we got to start here. It starts here. Because if you don't have this, you don't have a foundation. There's no way for you to have solid footing and then work off of that. You're just flailing around. And then the second part is commitment. And the commitment piece is about committing to posting consistently. Does that mean every day? Not necessarily. Would it be good if it was every day? Yes. It would help. It would be better if you did. But slow beginnings. The point is if you make a commitment to actually post, and the other thing about that commitment piece is to not get hung up on your numbers. Don't get hung up on your numbers. That's a whole other conversation. We have someone here about social intelligence. But what I will say to that extent is that it's important for you to not get discouraged that you don't think people care, or they're not commenting, or they're not liking the photos. That's okay, because what you're doing is beyond the numbers, especially at the beginning. I've been at this consistent posting strategy for a little over a year. I'm still in that process. I'm still in the process of becoming visible, and that's what you're doing. You're giving yourself the opportunity to be visible by posting stuff consistently that is in line with who you are, who you serve, and why you do what you do. The next one, that guy, I don't know who that jerk is, but so once upon a time, I had a completely different career. I worked in television production, and I've been in the television business for about 18 years at this point. And one of my primary jobs was working as a field producer for the Maury Show. I don't know if you're familiar. You are, I saw that face. So yeah, 9 years. 9 years of that. I saw a lot of tears, a lot of fists, and a lot of weird stuff. But yeah, Maury, I know how you feel. Yeah. Well, so while I was there, now, if you're not familiar with the show, basically what it has boiled down to over the past 15 years is 2 different types of conflict topics. We're either going to figure out the paternity of this young boy or girl, or we're going to talk about cheating within your relationship, right? So now you can imagine that if we did a couple hundred shows a year, 5 segments per show. I've done thousands of these things, and the challenge that we had there was the fact that we're telling the same story over and over and over again, and it's like, what the hell are we going to do to make this thing interesting? And the way that we made this interesting, aside from all of the BS around with the hijinks and all of that, and the running and the crying and all of that shit, what we really focused on was figuring out the unique insights, or what we refer to as story points. that each guest had, okay? So there would be a very intensive interview prior to, and essentially what the whole purpose of that was to figure out what's going to make this paternity story different from the 750,000 other ones that have been created over the course of 21 years. And then what we would do is visually punctuate that story with the way that we shot the interviews and the way that we shot what we refer to as B-roll, the footage that you see while people are talking and it's not them actually moving, like that extra footage. There's a little TV extra thrown in there for you guys. But that same philosophy is exactly what I preach to my clients as well as what I employ in my own content creation strategy. It's about, listen, the fact is that when you look at your expertise and you look at the stuff that you want to present to your audience, the themes are there. And eventually what ends up happening is you talk about it a couple times and then you don't have anything else to talk about because it's the same thing. But if you force yourself to create consistent content, that will put you in a position where you have no choice but to sit and rethink that one theme, that thought, that piece of your brand that you want to share with people because this is the service that you provide or it's part of your expertise or whatever the case may be with that point. But it's coming at it from multiple angles and coming at it with a way that it's a fresh and unique perspective each time. And it's that perspective that you then use as a catalyst for creating content, okay? How many of you have been in a situation like this, or you're just walking up and down the street and an amazing idea, or you're in a conversation with someone on the phone, or you're talking to them in person, and you have this great idea. And then you then decide to do a victory lap in your head about how amazing that idea is, and it's like, this is gonna be my break right here, right now. And then while you're victory lapping, you forgot one thing. You write the damn thing down, and now it's gone 10 seconds later, and you're never going to remember it anymore. Yeah, I can see you've had that. I've had that happen to me. I can't even tell you how many times, and it pissed me off every time. And the only person that I have to blame was myself. So this is something that I preach from the mountaintops now, because the whole purpose of creating a well-curated social media presence is about capturing those unique moments, those unique insights, those unique thoughts, those interesting phrases, whatever comes up throughout the course of a day. And there's a lot of it. If you become aware of it, if you rewire your awareness so that you're able to actually capture these damn things as they happen, grab the phone and write it down. Because what ends up happening is as we talked at the top of this about, I don't know what to write. Well, guess what? When you actually capture these things as they happen, and by the way, when you capture them as they happen, it's going to be the coolest interpretation because it is completely unfiltered. You did not put any work into it. It's just, it happened. So if you catch it in its raw, I feel like I'm talking about like an animal in a wild, but if you capture it in a raw state like that, you're giving yourself a lot of flexibility later on so that you're able to then revisit at a certain point, a list of these, what I refer to as idea nuggets. And you're able to then work off of something that you already have. And then you're not working from a deficit, you're now working from an abundance. And what you then realize is because you did the work as the work was happening, you now have the ability to extemporaneously work off of those ideas. And then what happens is this little spider web of creativity happens where you actually start to get more ideas off of the original idea. And then sometimes the one that you wrote down doesn't even make it. But the point is that you're opening yourself up to a completely different way to acquire ideas for content. That's social posts and that's blogs. Now, obviously, the in-the-moment stuff is awesome because it's unfiltered and it's right there, and it's something that happened if you're talking to a client, if you're talking to a coworker, or whatever the case may be, whatever inspired you to write it down, that's great. But what's also important is when you actually sit down and you start writing and brainstorming your content for the upcoming week, the upcoming month, whatever, you know, your schedule happens to be, you want to be able to channel your creativity rather than sitting down and free writing. I don't know how many of you have tried to do free writing as a way to kind of generate some ideas. You have. I've done it, and it's either been a complete and total nightmare, or it's been something where I've gotten maybe one idea out of it. And it's because with free writing, you're just allowing yourself boundless places to go, which in certain cases works very well. But if you are trying to create very hyper-specific types of content that's going to resonate with your followers and your audience or your customers, you need to narrow and focus your attention and have it in a way so that the idea muscles that are working in the background have a purpose. Because once they have a purpose, then you're able to really hone in on what's important. And that's actually what my idea nugget generator program is about, the thing we were talking about earlier, Maiko and I, with the helping my clients that I was inspired because one of them was using stock photos. And really what the idea nugget generator is about really giving you that structure, giving you that format, giving you an opportunity to take all of this and make it right here, straight, narrow, and focused. And the way that we do it is I have what I refer to as content buckets in a workbook, in a PDF document, where it breaks down several different types of themes of content. Now the thing is that not all of them will work for everyone because not everyone talks about the same types of things. But what it does do is it opens the brain and it gets the idea muscles going in a way that, quite frankly, you're not used to. And it's more of a transformative process rather than, okay, I'm going to plug and play and all of a sudden I know what I'm doing. No. What it does is it rewires the way that you approach content, the way that you bring in ideas, and the way that you figure out how to visually punctuate your images, your stories with your images. And it keeps everything very organized and you're moving forward. So one of these content buckets that I'm talking about is this one, about objects that emotionally resonate with you. Now, why the hell would we want to talk about that? Well, as I had mentioned before, we need to talk about our expertise, yes. And as a personal brand specifically, we need to talk and share our expertise as a service business as well. But when it comes to the other piece, the rapport piece, the building a connection with people, when you start posting stuff like this, when you start posting things that have a meaning to you that's beyond just what you do, what happens is you're opening up a conversation with members of your audience, because now they're going to see you in a different light. They see you as that human being. They see you as someone, that they can invest their time in, and that they trust you, because you're opening yourself up by sharing things that are, that are personal to you. All of these are personal to you. Things like this. And I have personally shot pretty much. Now I've shot all of this stuff because that's where I got the ideas from to write it down in this thing. So yes, and everybody's different. Not everybody is down with a coffee or a tea or a mug for tea. It doesn't matter. Some people don't have heirlooms. Some people don't use vision boards. Some people don't use journals. But the point is that it's about objects that emotionally resonate with you. So within all of our lives, like right now, I want to write about how awesome this thing is, because I've never had a clicker before and it's my first time and I'm very excited about it. I just wanted to share that. But actually, the one thing that I do write about a lot is that camera that's in the back over there. He's working hard his name is Anthony, by the way. I named my camera. And I've written about the fact that I named my camera. And that's what I'm talking about. Because guess what? You all smiled, it got your attention, and now you have a little bit more of an indication of my personality, because I name inanimate objects, and I'm cool like that. So, yes?
So are you talking about when you're writing a blog, or is this, I was thinking more Instagram, and I read on Instagram business analytics and stuff that you're supposed to keep the grid consistent.
Yeah.
And so suddenly, you know, if you have your face every day and then suddenly a coffee mug, I mean, that could be a good disruptor. But I mean, is that what you're talking about, or is this just pertinent to your blog?
No, it's pertinent to everything, because the one thing that all of this idea generation is about, it's about your messaging across the board. It's not just about Instagram. It's not just about your blog. It's about the way that you present yourself and how you want to be perceived by those who you serve. That's what this is about. And yeah, it's cross. As a matter of fact, that's a very great point that you bring up, because when it comes to my social media, I sometimes have an idea, I'm going to do a blog. I'm going to write a blog. And what ends up happening is I'll come up with 3 other blog ideas within that. But then what also happens is I'll have 4 or 5 social posts that I can directly pull from that content. Not necessarily just lifting the text, which is also something I do, but it sparks another idea that's a bit of an offshoot that won't work within the text of the blog, but it will work as a separate standalone social media piece. So what ends up happening is a lot of cool shit, because you start writing a lot. And it becomes something where you feel like you're always working at a deficit to becoming fully empowered with being able to talk about what you do in a way that is confident and informative and inspiring. And that's what we want. We want to inspire these people, because that's what keeps people connected to you. And once they're connected to you, it's then a process of nurturing them through the process, through your content, by sharing value. And what do I mean by value? I mean talking about things that you are an expert in and sharing it in a way that they can walk away with free advice or free counsel or free just inspiration, because that's what you're trying to do, okay? Now, getting back to this whole object thing, this happens to be an image of an object that I took with a client who is an Excel instructor and has really handsome blue socks, and the shirt is gray. Yeah. So S.H.A.R.E and I, we had a branded lifestyle portrait session, and when we were talking beforehand, this was actually before I had this whole idea nugget generator thing. This was me just trying to impart like some advice or whatever, just trying to get some ideas so we could do something interesting. He's an Excel guy, and it's like, what the hell does a Rubiks Cube have to do with Excel, right? So I figured that since you're sitting here, we might put you to use, and we're going to get you to talk about that a little bit.
I would love to.
It's so thoughtful of you.
I'll do it. So to me, this was straightforward. Like, obviously, Rubiks Cube and Excel would make sense. So why not? But then John pointed out that's called the curse of knowledge, where it makes sense to me and it's obvious to me, but it's not obvious to everyone else. But what's really great about this specifically is that it represents so much of what I do and so much of what I want to offer to the world. So taking something that looks inherently complex and complicated and difficult and challenging, and finding a way to solve the problem. There's only one state with the Rubik's Cube, which is a solution. And so not only finding something that's challenging and finding a way to solve it, but also doing it in a very systematic way, doing it in a way that breaks down the complexity and the intimidation factor of, oh my God, that's a Rubik's Cube, how am I going to do this? To, oh wow, it's just a series of algorithms, a series of steps. That's all it is. And in college, one of the things I did starting out in college to actually make some friends was I taught people how to solve it. And it wasn't even about the solution, it was about the journey of showing something complicated being achievable if you just break it down to steps. And that was the really juicy piece for me. That's when I really started to think, okay, I need to teach in some form or another in my life. I don't care what it is, I don't know what it's going to come out to, but showing people how to do something that they thought they couldn't do, or that someone tried to teach them, or they tried on their own, they couldn't figure it out, to be able to step in and say, look, it's actually easier than you think. I'll sit with you as long as it takes until you get it. And be like, oh, now I get it. Now it's easy. Now it clicks. And to me, that's what this represents. And that's the kind of story that I want to share, and what a beautiful image to be able to share it with. So that was the whole point.
All right. So wouldn't that be a cool story to read underneath that for coming from an Excel guy? That's my point. It completely draws you in. It's and in the case of S.H.A.R.E and I collaborating on this particular image, it's a metaphorical reference to you know, these feelings. It's not a literal thing like my camera, for example, is a literal object that has emotional reference. This is more of a metaphorical piece, but that's the point. We want to be able to have that flexibility with the types of stories that we share, with the different types of visual punctuations to the story that you want to create in order to get people's attention. Yes?
Can I ask where and how you use this image? Was it like on social media or?
So I didn't use it yet, but that's what I'm going to use it for. Yeah, I'm way behind schedule with all the stuff that I want to post, and I was intimidated by how to even begin, so I haven't done it yet. But that's the kind of idea that I had for this thing.
Yeah. I just wanted to shoot something really pretty in Fort Tryon Park. That's really all that was.
That
But
would be great for Instagram.
yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Because there are a bunch of visually savvy people following, and that's a great story.
And then the other thing about this image is there's about 15 other ones from different angles, some that include his entire face, some from I'm laying on the dirt shooting up and he's doing over there. But the point is that you now have the flexibility with which to not just have a one and done idea. It's not about creating one idea for one type of thought that you have or insight that you have. It is about creating a continuous flow of ideas. And the way that you do that is by allowing yourself the space to open up and really see things in a different light, where you're able to, you know, be able to pull out a metaphorical reference such as this in a way that's going to turn off the screen the moment I point to it. And it's in a way that is eye-catching, and it's pretty. Now, but guess what? This is shot obviously with, you know, my camera, and that's great. But these types of images are not out of the realm of possible. You could do it with your camera phone too, and that's the point. The point here is that it's not about pulling this thing out, or I left my phone over there, so you, whatever. So you pull your phone out, and it's like, oh, all right, I'm going to get this. It's like, what's more important is figuring out the stuff before it. The image is the visual punctuation, not the reason why you're posting it, okay? And that is something that you must keep in mind when you're putting together content for social media. Don't just, you know, either I want to post cool shots or I want to write a story and put it on like a text post or something. It's like, no, it's really think about the types of content that you want to share. And you had mentioned before about, oh, I'm going to have all the same. Yeah, I started that way. And honestly, what? Well, supposed to, you know, they're, you know. Right. Well, when I'm talking about Instagram, I'm talking about all of them. Yeah, there's certain things with certain ones, but by and large, we're talking high level in terms of just how to approach this whole concept in the first place. And the answer to that is, it really depends upon what you're trying to do, who you serve, and what your business is, and then create content that doesn't present you, as I said before, in a transactional way. Okay? And that means it incorporates a bunch of different stuff. Now, does that mean that I just have like stuff littered all over the place on my social? No, I don't. Because I have a very strict schedule, and I have a certain types of content that goes out on certain days every single day.
So we'll have some kind of consistency and pattern, but then break it and do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the Rubiks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to have to use that next time. Thank you.
And this is an amazing Facebook ad picture. Like,
That's right. And that's the other thing. And if you also notice, hold on, I get to do something really cool. So you see this space over here? Basically, what I do with a lot of my branded lifestyle portraits, as well as my smartphone photos, because if you go on my page, I got plenty of them. I got plenty of my iPhone shots on there for certain types of things. But that space that's over here, I justify a lot of my shots either to the left. Now, by the way, this shot's a little bit cropped weird because of the projector. It's actually a little bit wider, okay? But what you want to do here is you want to, what this offers S.H.A.R.E, if he were to post this as an ad or as just like a regular post or anything, you could put text right on there. And if you put text right on there, the text that you put will resonate deeper with the people who are looking at it because they're already seeing the text on the screen and they don't have to scroll down. But what it does do is entices people to actually want to scroll down and to actually read what the hell you put there. And then they're going to see the call to action, whatever that is, and then they're going to follow through with that. But if you don't leverage that now, if you don't leverage it, the shot is still cool as is regardless. But
That shows a high level of confidence to be there.
well, then consider me confident, because that's like every photo that I shoot. But that's the thing. Well, actually, compositionally, this is more interesting than putting it in the center. That is a misnomer. It's a horrible misnomer. It makes no sense to me. But curse of knowledge. I mean, you know, I've been behind cameras for almost 20 years, so I kind of have an idea of what composition means and how to break the rules, more importantly. But what this does is it's eye-catching because it is on the left side in a certain way that's meant to grab your attention. So, having said all of that, what objects emotionally resonate with you? Maiko, give me one. Why?
I make them.
Oh, okay, there you go. All right.
And each of them has a certain meaning or sort of like a wishful, hopeful thing to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like this one better because it's got this, it's kind of hard to see, but the little eyeballs looking.
Protect you. But that's exactly what oh, perfect. I'm glad that you have something that you like because, well, you know why in a second. Good. Anybody else? Give me something weird. I want to hear something obscure. All right, just give me.
Jewelry. It's just the necklace I have on. It says clarity.
It says clarity?
Yeah.
Good. That's going to come in handy in about 3 minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
Old Mac Plus.
A what?
Mac Plus, one of the first Macintoshes.
Whoa.
That was like the,
Looks like a little television.
yeah, it's like, it's so cool. It's this little box, and you had to put like 2 floppy disks.
Yeah, yeah.
And start it.
Yeah.
Black and white. It's
What-
like Pac-Man on it, basically.
Yeah. I had a Commodore 64. I stole my brother's and I would play games. Why does that resonate with you,
Well,
though?
it represents my whole career, you know, with transition from working a job to when the Macs came out, enabled me to start my own business 10 years ago.
Wouldn't that be a cool story to share with people? Take a photo with your smartphone and you post something about that? It's a lot, it would go along, and for me, I've only owned Macs in my life. You know, that's cool. That immediately would get my attention. Any others? Anyone?
Everybody,
Go.
Teapots, I love teapots, and they remind me of conversation around it. And, yeah, I prefer mugs over teacups. They're a little too polite.
They're too dainty?
Yeah, a little too
Need something a little more forceful?
But I do like
Sure.
teapots and tea and that kind of stuff. And there's so many types and pretty patterns.
Now, my question is this. That emotionally resonates with you. The next question would be, how do you weave in the fact that this means so much to you and conversation and have it resonate with your audience? That's the key. But that story is awesome. And now you need the second piece. You need that piece that's going to make this not, hey, look at me, I'm awesome. I have, you know, cups and tea and blah, 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 blah. And it's not about that. It's not about the fact that you have that, or if it were, you know, something that were, you know, worth an exorbitant amount of money. And it's like, look at me. It's not about that. It's about the conversation. And then it's about how does that translate to telling that story to the people that are following you.
I like it.
It likes you back.
I could do that, right? I have a teapot that has a map of the world on it, and I could easily spin that into.
You could spin that into a bunch of different posts, not just one. Remember, continuous flow of stories. That's what you want, because you could shoot that teapot from far away, and then you could talk about that conversation thing. Close up, go to the map of the world piece. Talk about how that would resonate. You know, you can bring up something about that. Then you could think about shooting it from a different way, and then talking about another angle about that teapot. How old is it? And, you know, something else. I mean, I'm just spitballing right now, but you get the point.
Right, and then, but how would you use that? Would you put them in every so often, or I guess you would come up with a schedule?
Yes. Keep answering your own question. Go ahead.
Yeah. I've been told this stuff, I just haven't.
Oh. Well, you know what? No time like the present to get started and kick yourself in the ass and get to work, right? Exactly. But
So I would do it on the day that I reveal something about myself.
yeah. So just to give you a little bit of, and give everyone else a little bit of kind of clarification on this whole scheduling thing. So on every Monday and every Thursday, I have posts that go out that are my quote posts, which are, you know, have this photo, like this type of thing, and then I have my text in my branding with my logo, like in that corner. So I do about 8 or 9 of those a month. So that's right off the bat, okay? Then I have, every Wednesday I promote my blog across my social platforms. So every Wednesday I'm highlighting my blog. So right there, that's 12, 13, 14 posts depending on the on the month. Right off the bat. Then on the week,
Posts as in posting on
social.
media, but not your blog posts.
No, the blog posts, that's 13 a month. Those I do first usually. I'll usually write those because when you write the blogs, like I said before, hey, guess what? Here's 6 social post ideas that just fell off the page, and I'm going to use that too, right? So, and then on the weekends is when I try to use the cell phone photos, the personal shots, something that's a little more emotional or of more of the personal angle of, you know, my life. You know, the expertise pieces and the visibility pieces and all that stuff during the week. On the weekends, we let our hair down. We get a little crazy. Yeah.
And you mean when you say post every day?
Oh, I'm every damn day. Oh, I'm every day.
So you know what?
Every day.
That can be intimidating to some,
It was intimidating to me.
but
It's not easy.
but you had phases. And
Yes.
I think what you're trying to say now is that, well, you know, we can all start small.
Well, yeah.
Unique perspective.
Yes.
I love that teapot idea. It could be from far away, or it could be with people and you do language.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You can use it actually with people, take a selfie and do that and all that kind of stuff. Right. But
Very simple.
yes. Now, as I had alluded to before, yeah, I don't expect everyone to try to write that much stuff at the beginning. You're going to fall flat on your face because it's hard. But that's what we were talking about, you and I, before. It's about the consistency. If you're going to do 3-4 days a week to start, yeah, it should be more. But if you're going to do 3 to 4, do 3 to 4. Get it done. Get it done every week because the people who are following you want to see that consistency. That's how you continue to build trust too. Yes.
So I'm toying more so with video content and like YouTube channels and things of that nature. How would that translate to video? Or does it translate to video? Are you talking about unique angles and different things?
What do you mean unique angles of the content or of the way it's shot? You mean?
I guess of both. You know, I guess the content can, you know, with doing video, you can actually talk about your story.
Yes.
You can hear it from your own voice.
Yep.
But in terms of even like, you know, shooting and things like that, does that translate in the same way to video as opposed to like
Well,
shots or?
yes, because that's where I come from. I come from the TV world because telling a story is telling a story. That's the thing that a lot of it's like, it doesn't matter the modality of it, it matters that you're telling the right story. And it does translate. Now, if we get into the aesthetics of shooting video versus photo, the way that I shoot my photos comes from shooting video. That's why I'm up in everybody's face. I worked, on a show that was highly emotional and very charged, a lot of tears, and I'm up in people's grills a lot. And that's what I've employed in my photography, because the thing that I noticed about what a lot of other photographers were putting out there was beautiful stuff, really nicely done, but it was solely driven on vanity, and it wasn't driven on value. And on top of that, the variety wasn't there. The diversity in the images, the expressions and the moods that were created from that I saw out that were either super smiley, super happy, ha 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 ha, oh my God, I'm loving my life, and I'm gonna sit at a keyboard and stare in the camera and make it look like it's real and it looks totally fake. Or I'm a badass and I'm gonna stand there and look 10 feet tall. So basically what a lot of photographers that we're putting out there is black and white type of images, but the reality is we live in shades of gray. Our emotions are shades of gray. The value that we put out there is shades of gray, because we have different types of content for different types of purposes. So yeah, that's where that came from. Then as far as the translation, yes, it does. It's just, and the preparation is super important when it comes to video as well. You don't just grab a camera and just make it work and hope for the best. You plan and you strategize and you prepare, and that goes across the board. That goes across the board with, I'm very sensitive about that, when it comes to putting content out there.
Like wrapping up at the moment, unless you guys have any questions or anything, before we wrap up. But I wanted to thank John for doing this masterclass. And the round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
I hope you had a great time and it was insightful, and I would love to hear your feedback about the event. And just to let you know, I do this bi-monthly. So the next one coming up is in October, and it's going to be about public speaking.
Trisha Brooke?
Yes.
Another
Trisha
client.
is there you go. She's coming up in October. So just look out for my emails. I don't spam often, but I do remind you that the discount is expiring or all that good stuff. So look out for those emails, and let me know if you guys have any ideas. To be honest, I'm starting to program for 2019. So if you guys have any ideas, let me know what you want to see, what you want to learn, or some other things that maybe you have on your mind. I would love to hear it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh,
You have a question?
Oh,
had a question.
just a quick one right now.
Sure.
My daughter said she loved my assignment. She just liked it.
That's awesome.
Good.
And
It's a great story.
that's high praise. She
Yeah.
said, ask about hashtags. So, do you have any quickie advice?
The woman who just left is actually the queen of the hashtag conversation. But the quick and dirty conversation is don't use 50 million of them.
Okay.
Use ones that you actually look at and research first. Meaning, if you're going to,
If there's a million.
well, fine. You mean a personalized hash?
No.
You mean just regular hashtags in your
Yeah.
post. So what you want to do is you want to be in conversations with people that need your services. So the way that you figure that out is through hashtags. And what that means is there's no easy way around it other than looking up the hashtag, seeing who's using it in the feed, and determine whether or not those are the people that you want to talk to. Okay? And then if they are the people that you want to talk to, you're in luck. Slap that sucker on all those posts that you want them to read. If it's something where you see a bunch of crap in there, move on, don't use it, because it's not going to get you in the right conversations. It's not about the volume of conversations, it's about the right conversations.
Okay.
Make sense?
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, coming up with your own, like you did, that's boldly stated on your chest. That's a whole another. That's a whole another challenge. It's not like, it's not that difficult. I don't think. You make sure that nobody else is.
It's not. No, that's not necessarily true. It's. I was lucky because I had help with mine, and then I then attached a whole background to it that makes complete sense with where I am with my life. But that's not the case for everyone. What really matters is that you don't just take one that you think everyone's going to like. It has to have some kind of emotional resonance with you. And yeah, absolutely does for me. So, and plus,
Here's the thing. It's not like you get to copyright it, but you are the only one pretty much using it.
on Twitter you can. On Twitter it's copywritten or whatever their Twitter.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, technically.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you've been consistent with it, and
I
nobody else is really using it, unless they know you and they're purposely using that.
Yeah, no. My clients use it. People who are responding to my stuff use it in a really flattering way. But yeah, if you go on Google and you look up, yeah, absolutely, 9.9999 out of 10 times it's going to be attached to one of my photos in some shape or form.
Right.
So yeah.
And you get to find that. It might not be an overnight thing, but I think if you do some research on it, continuously look
Yeah.
for the one that resonates with you, I think
And that's it.
doable.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Once
Very
again,
helpful.
thank you everybody.
You're welcome.